Right guys, so welcome back. I'm going to show you how to base the Harlequins up in this video, and this is the one that we painted up over the course of the last couple of videos. Here is the other two Troop Masters. This one, of course, his base is made of a broken poker chip, and this guy, his base is of course made of dice. They're very, very simple to make. Here's an example of a Star Weaver base I haven't finished. I've literally broken a poker chip up, glued it down, stuck half a card down, half a playing card, PVA and sand, and then of course glued a couple of dice on the top, and that's literally all I've done. Obviously this is a mix of all three of them. What I've done is one troop is going to have all poker chip bases, one's going to have all dice bases, and one of course is going to have all card bases. So I've already made my bases for all of the troops, unfortunately, so I can't show you step by step how to make them, but obviously hopefully that the Star Weaver base there will show you. So I'm going to use one of these two bases. This is a joker card with a couple of other playing cards that I've just rested up to hang over the edge of the base, and that is a quarter of a playing chip. So the brown that I use is actually a cheap brown acrylic paint from Home Bargains. I think it was about £1, and I basically just do all of the sand on the base in that brown. And when it comes to me basing, I just use cheap brushes because, you know, they're going to get dirty, they're going to get messy, they're going to get damaged when you're painting in between all of the sand and the cracks. So feel free to use brushes from the pound shop, B&M, Wilkinson's, things like that. Don't be afraid to get really stuck in there with the brown. I like this brown, it does cover quite well, and it's very easy to highlight as well. So I'll show you how to do both bases and get the effect that I've gone for with my Harlequins. I like a nice earthy colour with a little bit of grass in there. Ooh. If I can keep hold of it. And there we go. So you don't be frightened to get your brush dug right in to all them cracks and crevices for when we dry brush it later on. And what I'm going to do is each of the chips on each troop, I'm actually going to do a different colour. Now the Troop Master that you've just seen is of course already on a poker chip, so the next one I will be adding to the card base, but this one is to show you how I do my bases. Now obviously we're going to have to let that dry. It is going to need another coat around the rim of the base there. And then moving on to this one with the playing cards. Again, this one, a very, very small amount of sand in between the gap of the cards. Just painting the rim of the base there. So there we go, it's as easy as that. Like I said, I've literally just glued them straight onto the bases. We'll let them dry and give them a second coat, and we'll see you in a few moments. Right, so now that the first coat is dry, we're now going to do the second coat, and most of it will just be getting a nice flat colour along the rim of the base. Most of the actual earthiness in the sand should be a nice dark brown anyway, so it shouldn't really need a second coat, but if it does, this is the point that you want to redo it. But for the moment, this is just about getting a consistent colour around the rim of the base, and the same with this one here as well. Go. You can see there that the second colour, or the second coat rather, is going on quite nicely. There we go. So let the second coat dry, and then we'll come back with the dry brush and start highlighting the bases up. Right, so now that the rim of the base is dry, we're going to apply the first dry brush onto the earthy bit of the one with the poker chip. And I'm going to use Acadian Flesh Tone. It's quite a fleshy colour, but I think it brightens the earth up quite a lot on there. Now we are just going to use a dry brushing technique where we wipe off most of the paint off our brush. And I'll just clean that up, and then what we're going to do is just quickly drag it across the surface of the earths, like that. And it just picks up all the raised bits of the soil and earth. And there we go, that is the first bit. The next bit, I do exactly the same thing, but I use Screaming Skull just to highlight the very raised top of that. So Screaming Skull is the next dry brush colour, and again just wiping most of the paint off the brush. And like I said, this is just an old knackered brush I got from the pound shop, probably in a large set, and they're ideal for bases because it doesn't matter how knackered they get. And there we go, just going lightly over the soil, and thanks to the noisy kids outside. And there we go, that is highlighted up quite nicely. And we'll come out and do the poker chip. Right, so now that the base itself is dry, we're going to paint the poker chip up, and I've done each of the poker chips in a slightly different colour, kind of like where I've done the dice in different colours. So for this one I'm going to do blue. I'm going to use Altdorf Guard blue to paint this one up, and I'm literally just going to paint the surface of the poker chip with it, and just avoid the bits of mud that I've already painted up with the dry brushing, and just literally go around them. Now, Altdorf isn't a base coat, so it does take a coat or two to cover, but it'll still look pretty good. I'm just going to make sure I get right on the underside there as well. And to get right up that side there. And then there's the little buried one just at the back there that I've got. There we go, so then when that is dry, maybe just give that a second coat. Get that highlighted up as well. Right, so the last stage almost of this is to dry brush the blue of the poker chip. I'm actually going to highlight this with Temple Guard blue, much like what I did with the rest of the Harlequin. So I've got some on my brush and I've just wiped it off a little bit, and we're just going to give it a light dry brush of the blue. Just making sure we get all the edges there. And there we go, just highlighted that up nicely. And I've done that obviously with all of the poker chips. I did it exactly the same way with the dice, apart from with the dice I then had to go back over the dots with pallid witch flesh. The almost final stage is to apply some static grass. I use Army Painter Battlefield Field Grass, and I apply it with super glue. What I'm going to do is just add a little bit to the base just to make sure or at least try and enhance it a little bit more. So I think we'll have some along the front edge here, and maybe a clump in that corner there. Now what I tend to do is, the way I apply this is I tend to grab quite a large clump of it, sprinkle it on and kind of pat it in place, but because it's such a large clump that I'm applying and tapping on, it doesn't absorb all of the glue, which works because when you tap it off, and I think that looks quite nice indeed. I'm going to add a tiny bit onto the card here as well, just to show that maybe there's, you know, a crack or two of grass poking through the card, maybe, you know, a little bit of overgrown foliage. Just tap it off back into the tub, and obviously saves any wastage, and there we go, there's a tiny bit on there. It now means that this guy can be glued on. Now obviously I've still got a little bit of the rune on the bottom there. Now I'm actually going to cut that off because, like I said at the beginning, I'm not using the runes. I think the runes for the Harlequins are very nice, but they're not for my army, unfortunately. So I'm just going to move that out of the way, cut that off, if I can find a nice angle to chop it at. There we go. And then I'm actually going to glue this guy onto the card, because like I said, I wanted a Troop Master on each type of base. I've done this one just literally to show you guys how I've managed to do it, and like I said, the dice are painted in very much the same way. So again, the same colour blues there, and the greens and the purples are the same colours that I've used throughout this tutorial. So I think it's time we get this Troop Master mounted on his playing card base. So sometimes, depending on the base, depends on how well you can maybe mount him. So obviously that foot's quite flat, so I think you would mount on there quite well. So for this guy, he is going to have to go right down near the bottom, but I think what I'm going to have to do is, because the toe is quite at a point, I might have to just glue his toe down there and then put a dab of glue maybe here, because I don't feel like he would stand quite too well there. I don't think I've really done quite well on that base. In fact, here's another one I did earlier there. I might actually stick him on instead. I just haven't put the static grass on that. So you know what? Let's do that now. Let's get the static grass on this one. And then a bit along the front there. And get it tapped off. Quick blow. And then we'll get this guy glued on. So super glue on the bottom of his foot. Ooh. And let's glue him right there. Now obviously, because of the position of the Harlequins and the way that the toes and everything work, it is a little bit awkward for the positioning, but hopefully this guy should stick. Give it a few moments. Yeah, it's getting there. In fact, I don't know if I quite like that position. Might put him a little bit further down actually. And I find with the basing, you know, the poses are important, so it's worth taking that little bit extra time just to find the right pose for what works. While he's gluing, we'll just bring the other Harlequins that I've got here on my desk into shot, just to show you the different themes that we do have going. And there we go. So that is one complete Troop Master. We'll just zoom in on him. There you go. Fully magnetised. He's still a little bit wet there on his base, but fully magnetised and ready to hit the field with a playing card themed base. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this sit and paint. Please let me know what you think. I know I did it with Blood Angel Captain previously, and I just thought I would show you through the Harlequins and how I do it. What would you like to see next? What unit would you like me to see paint? What army would you like me to see paint? So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and thanks very much for watching, folks.